What is going on in the world? Well, apparently people are being psychologically controlled and manipulated. Now, is this conspiracy, or is there something more to this? I am Sa Ra Garvey. Like, comment, share and subscribe. Today we are going to be going into psychological control. Now, we're going to be going back to an interview in 1984 to a man by the name of Yuri Bezmenov. Now, Yuri Bezmenov is an ex-KGB member, and what he does is that he's going to outline the plan when you want to destabilize and demoralize a country. Now, I want you all to ask yourselves, is what he's saying relevant to the times we are living in now?
In a suburb of Moscow. He was the son of a high-ranking Soviet Army officer. He was educated in the elite schools inside the Soviet Union and became an expert in Indian culture and Indian languages. He had an outstanding career with Novosti, which was and still is, I should say, the press arm or the press agency of the Soviet Union. It turns out that this is also a front for the KGB. He escaped to the West in 1970 after becoming totally disgusted with the Soviet system, and he did this at great risk to his life. He certainly is one of the world's outstanding experts on the subject of Soviet propaganda and disinformation and active measures. Well, you spoke several times before about ideological subversion. That is a phrase that I'm afraid some Americans don't fully understand. When the Soviets use the phrase ideological subversion, what do they mean by it?
Ideological subversion is the slow process which we call either ideological subversion or active measures, активные мероприятия in the language of the KGB, or psychological warfare. What it basically means is to change the perception of reality of every American to such an extent that despite of the abundance of information, no one is able to come to sensible conclusions in the interests of defending themselves, their families, their community, and their country.
To change perception so much that regardless of the amount of information that you receive, you cannot make sense of it. And is this relevant to the times we're living in today? In the times where we are told that men can be women, women can be men, I can be white, I could be Chinese, and men can get pregnant. And if you go against this type of rhetoric, we are seen as the ones with the problem, to confuse a society so much that no matter what information is brought to them, that they are unable to come to sensible conclusions.
It's a great brainwashing process which goes very slow, and it's divided in four basic stages. The first one being demoralization. It takes from 15 to 20 years to demoralize a nation. Why that many years? Because this is the minimum number of years which requires to educate one generation of students in the country of your enemy, exposed to the ideology of the enemy. In other words, Marxism-Leninism ideology is being pumped into the soft heads of at least 3 generations of American students without being challenged or counterbalanced by the basic values of Americanism, American patriotism. The demoralization process in the United States is basically completed already.
He said in 1984 that the demoralization process was already completed. That's what he said in 1984. We are currently in 2023, going into 2024. But he said in 1984 that the demoralization process was already completed. Do you think he's right?
For the last 25 years, actually it's overfulfilled, because demoralization now reaches such areas where previously not even Comrade Andropov and all his experts would even dream of such a tremendous success. Most of it is done by Americans to Americans, thanks to lack of moral standards. As I mentioned before, exposure to true information does not matter anymore. A person who was demoralized is unable to assess true information. The facts tell nothing to him. Even if I shower him with information, with authentic proof, with documents, with pictures, even if I take him by force to the Soviet Union and show him concentration camp, he will refuse to believe it until he is going to receive a kick in his fat bottom. When a military boot crashes his balls, then he will understand, but not before that. That's the tragic of the situation of demoralization. The next stage is destabilization. This time, subverter does not care about your ideas and the patterns of your consumption. Whether you eat junk food and get fat and flabby, doesn't matter anymore. This time, and it takes only from 2 to 5 years to destabilize a nation, what matters is essentials: economy, foreign relations, defense systems. And you can see it quite clearly that in some areas, in such sensitive areas as defense and economy, the influence of Marxist-Leninist ideas in the United States is absolutely fantastic. I could never believe it 14 years ago when I landed in this part of the world that the process will go that fast. The next stage, of course, is crisis. It may take only up to 6 weeks to bring a country to the verge of crisis. You can see it in Central America now. And after crisis, with a violent change of power, structure, and economy, you have so-called the period of normalization. It may last indefinitely.
This is exactly the times that we're living in right now. Okay? Facts do not matter to people anymore. What matters are people's feelings. Anytime you bring a fact, you are greeted with a wall of feelings. It does not matter what facts you bring to people in these days and times. They call you a phobic. They say that you are against them. They say that you are the enemy. Now, when did we start substituting facts for people's feelings and making people that are bringing factual information the enemy of society?
Normalization is a cynical expression borrowed from Soviet propaganda. When the Soviet tanks moved into Czechoslovakia in '68, Comrade Brezhnev said, "Now the situation in brotherly Czechoslovakia is normalized." This is what will happen in the United States if you allow all these schmucks to bring the country to crisis, to promise people all kind of goodies and the paradise on earth, to destabilize your economy, to eliminate the principle of free market competition, and to put a big brother government in Washington, D.C., with benevolent dictators like Walter Mondale, who will promise lots of things, never mind whether the promises are fulfillable or not. Your leftists in United States, all these professors and all these beautiful civil rights defenders, they are instrumental in the process of the subversion only to destabilize the nation. When their job is completed, they are not needed anymore. They know too much. Some of them, when they get disillusioned, when they see that Marxist-Leninists come to power, obviously they get offended. They think that they will come to power. That will never happen, of course. They will be lined up against the wall and shot.
It's very interesting that he says the university professors, the university professors are part of the plan, because when you look at this new agenda with the, let's say, the trans, for instance, let's say the vaccinations, for instance, let's say all of these other, huge things that are going on in society, the college campuses and the university campuses is where a lot of it starts with a lot of the students. And this is what Yuri Bezmenov has been saying for 40 years. So these people are actually used as tools to get the agenda pushed forward.
But they may turn into the most bitter enemies of Marxist-Leninists when they come to power. And that's what happened in Nicaragua. You remember most of these former Marxist-Leninists were either put to prison or one of them split, and now he's working against Sandinistas. It happened in Grenada when Maurice Bishop was already a Marxist. He was executed by a new Marxist who was more Marxist than this Marxist. Same happened in Afghanistan when first there was Taraki, he was killed by Amin, then Amin was killed by Babrak Karmal with the help of KGB. Same happened in Bangladesh when Mujibur Rahman, very pro-Soviet leftist, was assassinated by his own Marxist-Leninist military comrades.
Now, the full link is in the description for anybody who actually wants to watch the full video. I would advise everybody to go and watch it, because for me, it has very real world implications. Now, a lot of people are going to be out there saying that this is basically a conspiracy theory. But like he said, no matter what facts are brought to the table, some people just won't. They just won't care. Okay, what matters is how they feel and how they think, not what the facts are. But if you look at what he was saying so long ago, it is now relevant to the times in which we live in. And for me, I'm asking the question, what does it hold for the future? This man did not need to tell us this information, but he chose to tell us this information. Now, the question now becomes, what are we going to do with this information? A lot of the time, a lot of us feel like, okay, we get all this information and what do we do with it? What we actually have to do with it is start sharing it with our brethren, start sharing it with our neighbor, start sharing it with our family. The only way we can come up with some kind of idea is if people know about what is going on. And with this social media push and with the media push, I believe that what people are trying to do and what the big companies are trying to do is to get your minds to shift focus on the things that actually don't matter. Okay, there are things that do matter. They're trying to shift focus onto the things that don't matter. So what we need to do is focus on the things that do matter. And in this society, what we are going to have is delusion being the order of the day. And that is what I believe everything has come to. It's come to delusion. Like Yuri Bezmenov said, it doesn't matter what facts are brought forward. You are not able to make valid or come to valid conclusions because you've been demoralized, because you've been told what to think, not told or taught how to think. And that is one of the things that go on in our society, is that we are told what to think, not taught how to think. We're not taught to actually break down information. What we are shown, or what we are told, is that if we don't think this way, we are bad, and this is what's going to happen to you. And so what happens is that loads of people start falling in line with whatever is being said and not actually thinking for themselves. Now here on this channel, what I want is people to be able to think for themselves. I could be wrong, and I'm open to being wrong. You could be wrong, be open to being wrong, but I could also be right. And that's where we start to have these conversations and attempt to try and come to a better conclusion as to what is going on. I've been Sa Ra Garvey, and this has been What Is Going On in the World. Now, like, comment, share, subscribe, and until the next episode, I'ma catch you on Flipside.